So good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Top Talk session. Hi, Emily. I know you're sat there in the wings. I've just unmuted you. Can you hear me?
Hi, I'm here.
There was that slight quiet pause. I love that quiet pause, as if to scare me.
Yeah.
I knew you were there. Thanks once again for joining us tonight, and especially as it's perfect timing, really, because there's a new series of films from you on the Photographer Academy. But before we get going, I know tonight we're looking at posing. We've just been chatting in the wings. I have told them briefly, but this is the first of 3 webinars we're going to do, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be posing tonight and then finding the best locations for your photo shoot on the second one. And then on the third one is going to be all about lighting and how to light horses and humans in the most flattering way.
Excellent. And also for people who might not have joined us before or seen any of your films on the Photography Academy, just tell us a little bit about how obviously you got to where you are and how you became sort of a horse photography specialist.
Yeah, so I have been a photographer for about 15 years now, and for the last sort of 10 years, I've specialised in photographing horses, and specifically horses with their owners. So really, all that has actually meant is that it's been roughly 80% of my income. Um, Originally I sort of was photographing weddings and family shoots and commercial and all these different things starting out, and actually I've always been brought up around horses, and I kind of felt that the relationship I had with my horse I wanted to capture for other people, and so I started to investigate and take photographs of people with their horses, and it's really kind of went crazy, and then for the next 10 years that's what I've been doing. More recently, though, I've diversified. Well, I say more recently, but probably in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I have diversified, still on the equine theme, but I do now produce sort of artwork, equine art to hang on people's walls, and also do quite a lot of training. But overall, the last 10 years has been all about horses, basically, which to be able to marry my passion for horses and my passion for photography and create a business and make a good living out of it has just been absolutely wonderful. So I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, that's brilliant. I know obviously everybody's goal at the end of the day, and we'd love to be in the same boat, but brilliant. Well, I know what you have to share with them, so we will get started because we've got lots to get through. Guys, we want you to interact with us, so we want you to ask Emily your questions. So please feed those through to me via the question panel. I'll feed those to Emily where appropriate during the presentation, but we've allowed plenty of time at the end for questions as well, so we'll do our best to get as much of your questions answered as possible. We should be okay to get most of them done. Also, I've shared with you Emily's links to how to interact with Emily, but I'll also be sharing those to you via the chat panel. And of course, if you want to get hold of Emily at all and you miss any of these links, please just get in touch with me at the Photography Academy and we'll be happy to pass on all of the links so you can interact with Emily. Emily, I'm going to hand you the screen.
Lovely, thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for logging in. I can see how many people there are, and that makes me slightly nervous. But today's talk is going to be about posing humans and horses together. And I know when I'm doing training with clients myself, it's one of the biggest challenges, and actually it's vital that you get this bit right, because it can make the difference between selling, maybe 80 of your images to the client after the shoot versus maybe 10 or 15. And so if you can really nail this down and be consistent and fluent with your posing, then it's going to make a really big difference for your sales. So I'll just go ahead and start here. I've got a ton of slides to show you with lots of different examples and images, and I'm just going to walk you through exactly what I would do on a photo shoot, and I know Jay said we've got a couple of other webinars coming up in the next couple of months, and they're also going to cover what I do on a photo shoot, but today we're going to really hone in on the posing. So just to kind of set the scene, when I've got a client and a photo shoot booked in, one of the really important bits to point out is the preparation. And I mean, this probably doesn't need to be said, but things like cameras, cards, batteries, making sure all your kit is 100% in working order the night before is absolutely vital. And I know there have been occasions where I've turned up to a client, well, I say one occasion because I learned from my mistake, but you know, where my battery was not fully charged and where I didn't have enough space on my cards and things like that. So it's just one of those things that you need to get into the habit of. But preparation really for the client is the really big one. So 3 or 4 days before the photo shoot, I will call my client up and I want to talk to them probably for about half an hour about what to expect on their photo shoot, and I will go through everything, timings, what they need, how they need to prepare their horse, excuse me, how they need to prepare for themselves, clothes, tack, directions to their place. Quite often my clients will live in the middle of nowhere and they have houses that are a mile from their front gates and there's no phone signal, and they have a gate code and all these kind of things. So I want to be absolutely prepared when I turn up to my client's house. I don't want to be flustered, I don't want to be late, I don't want to have phoned them going, oh my god, I can't find you, all these things. So that phone call is absolutely vital. But the one thing that is really key to make sure you go through with them is how to prepare their horse. Now I would say your horse needs washing, it needs a bath, it needs to be sparkling. I don't want it platted. Most of my clients compete on a regular basis, and so my job and what I offer as a service is a more relaxed, at-home feel to the images. So I don't want them all platted up. Now, if a client said to me, oh, I really want shots with my horse platted up, that would be fine. But for 99% of people, they will have their manes loose, but they will be nice and clean and sparkly. With regards to tack, I tell them that they need leather bridle, either black or brown, and it's to be clean, and likewise with the saddle to be nice and clean, albeit the chances are we won't use it, but I want it to be ready for the, just in case. Again, 99% of my images are all in hand, so people aren't actually riding their horses unless they specifically request that. And then also for the horse, they must have a head collar. Again, vital that it's either leather, black or brown, and lead ropes. You would not believe the variety of colours you get for lead ropes. Bright pink and green stripes, or purple and black, or it goes on and on. But so I specifically say, can they make sure that they have a black or brown or neutral colour lead rope? It actually makes a huge difference in the photographs if they follow those guidelines. Now, with regards to themselves, I always say to my clients, you know, if you want to go and get your hair done, that would be great, because it's a photo shoot. We need you to look your best, definitely. But with regards to hair and makeup, they should feel natural and comfortable. So clothing-wise, I'll recommend 3 separate outfits, because variety is key when you're doing a photo shoot and the end game is to sell a set of those images. You want variety, and again we'll talk about that with finding locations and using different lighting, So, and again with the posing as well. But for the 3 outfits for them, I recommend, for example, the first set of clothes might be a nice pair of jeans with some brown boots, a nice going out top. I always like accessories, so necklaces, jewelry, earrings, hats, scarves, gloves. I always like to have the option to kind of dress up or dress down. I'll also say, so with it, you know, if they bring their nice set of jeans, their tops, if they could have maybe a couple of nice tops that you could add a jumper to, or add a cardigan to, or add a jacket, you know, just to give us some options. The second look, I say pretty much, you know, just a casual look. For some of the girls, that might be a pair of shorts and a nice top, or a little summer dress, or if it's a guy, it might be a polo shirt with some kind of, you know, like knee-length shorts, or just something a bit more casual. And then the third outfit, I want something much, much smarter. Now, lots of my girls, and mainly this is because I show it in my portfolio, see other girls with long dresses on, and they want to wear a big dress and, you know, flowing dress. So the third outfit would be something much smarter. Now, like I said, variation is the key. You know, I want to come back and be able to edit down to somewhere between 80 and 120 images, but they're not to be repetitive. They can't be in the same outfit. They can't be in the same location. So part of making sure the horse is prepared correctly and also the owner is ready with all their outfits is key. I usually split my photo shoots down into 3 sections along with the 3 outfits, really. So we might start on the yard, we might then go out to sort of the next kind of nearest location around the fields, and then the third location might possibly be down the road, you know, somewhere with some long grass and big fields or woodland or something like that. Overall, though, it's absolutely vital that your client has the best experience, and whatever advice they take, be it they actually follow your advice with regards to clothes or they don't, you never want to say that that's not an ideal outfit. Quite often some of the young girls will come with brightly coloured, you know, floral patterns, crazy looks, and that's fine, and you go with that, and that's okay. It is one of the things I say on the conversation, on the telephone conversation, is, you know, if you think about me photographing you and your horse in a woodland, and you are wearing a luminous yellow and a luminous pink t-shirt, you know, it's going to be distracting, and they kind of get that most of the time. But anyway, the overall riding feeling from your client has to be that they had the most fabulous time, and that you loved all the clothes that they bought, and the horse looked amazing, and, you know, that they would do it again. So we're going to get on to posing now. I shoot in quite a formulaic way, because over excuse me, the course of 10 years, I've worked out what sells, and so I can turn up to a yard and know that I'm going to come away with at least 100 images, and of those images I know the client's going to buy a good amount. So I've got these kind of poses that I do throughout my shoots, and they work. They they just work. So the very first one that is a great kind of starting point is what I call the classic portrait. Now basically, ignore what the horse is doing for the minute. You ask your owner to stand in a position, and you say just let the horse do what he wants for now, and I want you to. Usually they just stand there looking at you. And again, this is really vital, that they are more nervous than you are as a photographer. And I know so many photographers, when you turn up on a shoot, you're kind of a bit wired and you're nervous, and you think, oh God, I hope I'm going to get the images and stuff. But they are far more nervous than you are. And so you need to step up to the plate and tell them what to do. They want to be told. And so I am very hands-on. I'm very direct with them. Will keep repeating things that I want them to do if they're not doing them, and I'm constantly looking to tweak. So when I'm looking through my camera and I see the owner's just stood there staring at me, right? So I'll say, okay, can you turn towards your horse sort of 45 degrees, and now put your weight on your back leg. Now some people don't know their back from their front leg or whatever, and they'll go the wrong way. So I will demonstrate. When I'm stood there, I will say, look at me. So if I lean on my back leg, I look slimmer than if I lean on my front leg. And it's really obvious to see when you actually get someone to switch between the two. So I'll say, okay, weight on back leg. And so many people slouch, and I will always never be shy to say stand up tall, because I tell you what, when you get back to the computer and you are looking at photos and you're thinking, oh God, I didn't they're slouching, they look kind of hunched back or whatever, you'll be kicking yourself that you didn't just say stand up really tall, put your shoulders back. Now, one thing that is vital, again, and you will have to repeat this, I probably repeat this 50 times on every single shoot I do, is relax your hands, relax your arms, because, and anyone who owns horses that's listening will know that as a horse handler, you need to stop your horse, and their head will go one way then the other, and then they'll move, and what you find is people who are holding onto their horses will be quite tense in the arms and in the hands. And so it's one thing that I really stress time and time again: relax your hands, keep your arms nice and low. So that's a vital thing. Another one is you'll find horsey people constantly talk to their horses. They're always saying good boy, good girl, and if you ever snap as in take the photograph at the point where they're saying good, you'll cry when you get back to the computer, because that image is worthless, because they're pulling a funny face, essentially. So I will constantly say, keep smiling at your horse. Okay, look at me, big smiles. Look at your horse, big smiles. Keep smiling, no talking. Okay, and I'll just keep saying that. So I will do most of the talking for them. But again, it's one of those small things that just makes a huge difference to the number of images you're going to be able to sell. Now, like I said, the horse pretty much can do whatever it likes. One key thing, and I'm sure most of you know this who are listening, is that horses need to have their ears forward. A horse that has its ears back, as in really back, 2 ears, flat back, means it's angry, and no one's going to buy a shot of that. So horses look best when their ears are up and forward, and that's what we aim for. Sometimes, like in this image here, the horse's ears aren't directly forward, but they're relaxed. It's because he's kind of talking to his owner, right? So he's kind of doing this little cuddly thing, which means that is fine. So if I flick on to the next slide, you can see lots of examples here of that. 45 degrees, turn towards your horse, weight on your back leg, stand up tall, no talking, lots of smiling. One extra thing to really focus on here is also the connection. So if you have a look, most of these owners have either got their arm up on the horse's neck, under its nose, cuddling it. There's connection in every single one of these images, and that has absolutely been directed by me. So that's not happened by chance. I should really take a shot before I've directed someone to show you a kind of before and after, because the way each of these people are posed is absolutely down to what I've told them to do. Now, the chap, Mark, in that bottom shot there, he's not standing quite 45 degrees, but as a bloke, I wouldn't tell him to lean on his back leg, because that wouldn't look great for him. So slightly more front on is fine. And yeah, so you can see, I mean, like I say, every single one of these I will have said the same things to. So here's just a shot, similar thing. Okay, the horse is stood side on this time, and I've done a kind of a wider shot. But again, if you look at the girl, her hands are relaxed, her arms are relaxed. She's stood up tall. She's weight on the back leg. She's smiling. She's not talking. Really important that the reins are neat, so I'll quite often tell them just to double their reins up. But again, you can see the connection. So albeit she's not touching the horse, the way I photographed it, her head is very close to the horse's head. When you take images like this with horses, in the ideal world, they would stand up square. So all four legs would be kind of straight and together. Now, this where the horse has got one hind leg slightly trailing is fine, unless you are photographing a show pony. If you're photographing a show pony, the owner will only be interested in a shot where the pony is stood absolutely dead square. So bear that in mind if you're in the going to be photographing someone who shows. And I don't know how many people need an explanation of the showing, but I mean like in-hand showing, best of breed type thing. Not a show jumper, not necessarily an event or a dressage rider. So always remember that 45 degrees, weight on the back leg, hands relaxed, stand up tall, keep smiling, don't talk. Anyone who's trained with me actually and come out on a photo shoot, that's all they hear. I say that constantly, basically. So here again, just a really nice couple of examples of what I would call the classic portrait, and this portrait can be done anywhere. So I will repeat it with I say every location. With many of the locations, I will repeat a variation of the classic portrait. Here, excuse me, you can see that depending on the size of the horse will determine what you ask your owner to do with regards to connection. So here on the left, Lisa, she's just put her arm up on his neck. Whereas Georgina on the right, she's just snuggling in sort of to his neck. I suppose, Lisa, it wouldn't quite work so well because she's a little bit smaller against her horse. So the next key pose that I do all the time, and it's a good one, is sitting. Find something anywhere for the client to sit. They need to be comfortable-ish. They've only got to be there for a minute or two. So if it's not that comfortable, it's not that, big an issue. But comfort's a good thing. Again, remembering the connection, always important that you're getting your owner to come in close to their horse. Some images, if there's some space between them, is fine for variation, but that kind of shot that, I'm pretty sure this was the shot actually for this client that they had as a big frame on the wall, And I doubt very much if there had been a gap between her and her pony that it would have been that sort of a seller. It might have gone into an album for sure, but to go on the wall, you've just got to have every element perfect. So when people sit down, almost everyone slouches. So it's really important that again you tell them to sit up straight. And you know, when you're looking through your camera, so pop them up on the fence or the bench or whatever it is, and just take time to look at what's happening. Again, the horse can be kind of in any direction. They might want to stand side on, they might want to stand front on, and that's okay. You need to kind of work with the horse. So as long as they're looking beautiful, i.e., you know, their ears are up and they're kind of attentive, then that's cool, that's great. Just take the opportunity while you've got it, and then every time you put the owner into a new position or location or pose, you need to direct them. So just because I said it on the first set of images, you know, stand up tall, keep smiling, don't talk, relax your hands, you need to continually repeat this to them. And no one, you know, they've never told me they've got bored of me telling them to relax their hands. But you know, I'll be looking through my camera and the owner is maybe just pulling on the horse's head to try and get it to come a bit closer, and I'm just saying, no, just relax your hands. Don't worry about where the horse is. That's all right. Just he'll fall into the right place, which is always the case. The horse does. At some point, and you may have to wait a few seconds for that, but that's okay. You've got time, and you don't want to feel, you know, that the client doesn't want to feel like you're rushing anything. At the same time, if the horse really isn't playing ball, then you can just move on, go to another location and find something else to do, and that's okay as well. So here are a variety of that kind of sitting on something. You can see here attention to what happens to feet in the three top ones. I would generally ask my clients to cross their ankles. If when they cross their ankles it doesn't look right, I just ask them to uncross them. Again, if you look at the reins, pretty much all these reins, set for maybe bottom left, is an ideal. But what I highly suspect happened there is the owner's smiling adoringly at her pony suddenly looks up, and I think take the shot and then ask her to neaten up her reins, and maybe at that point then the horse didn't look as good or whatever, so I've taken the opportunity there. But you know, everyone's smiling. Look, one thing I always say to my clients is, look adoringly at your horse. Always look adoringly at him. You know, however misbehaved, you know, they're being, which some of these horses can be a right pain. You know, they're kind of jitterish, not standing still, whatever they're doing. So you need to pose the owner and get them in position, and then wait for the horse to, you know, cooperate. So when I'm looking for locations, I'm always looking for logs, for gates, for benches, for chairs. You might find quirky, so that nice blue trailer there, picnic benches, whatever it is, you know, a nice metal chair or wooden old rickety thing. Fences, sometimes you have to be a bit careful depending on if they're falling down or not. And so you just, when you're doing your kind of scouting to find locations, you want to find all these areas where you could put the owner to sit. So key again is you really mustn't just hope for the best. You have to have an action plan, and these poses are in my mind all the time, and you know, I plan the locations, and when I get to a location I think, okay, what pose am I going to go for here, and then, you know, I've got my kind of reel of things to do and say and watch out for in every location. So always be consistent about checking all the bits, all the bits. Here again, another two really nice examples. Again, look at the connection. I've asked so both these owners would not just sit. So the lady on the left, for example, she wouldn't just sit on the chair like that and then pull that face and lean into her pony and be all lovely and relaxed. I've told her to do that. So again, you know, just really vital that they are way more nervous than you are, and you need to direct them as much as you can so that they feel comfortable. And again, the lady on the right, this is a really lovely image actually, I love this one, just where her head is actually touching the side of the horse's head, and that's perfect. Her hands are relaxed, she's got her other arm up on his neck, and so that is just a really beautiful image for her to be able to have. Now, the next one, crouching, really it's the same as the classic portrait with regards to, you know, being 45 degrees towards the horse, straight back, hands relaxed, keep smiling, you know, look adoringly at your horse, don't talk to it, and again, the horse can be in any direction it wants, so it can be straight on, it can come from the side, you know, horses. But one thing I do find is when you get someone to crouch, their horse will automatically look down towards them. They are focused on their owners. So one key point here to mention as well is this shot will not be the only shot from this set. So, for example, I will have set this up and I will have my camera in landscape orientation, for example, and I will take a wide shot and I will zoom in about halfway, say cut off behind, so crop behind the front legs and behind her back, so that's a second shot a bit closer, and then a third shot zoomed right in, okay, so while she's looking at the horse. Then I'll say, look at me, give me a big smile, and I'll take the same close-up, then I'll zoom out, take the halfway crop, and then zoom out again and take the full-way crop. Okay, so that's 3. And then I'll probably turn my camera portrait, and I will then take a different, interesting crop in a portrait, zoom in again, and so what I worked out earlier, I just totted it up actually, I might do 12 images per location. So for example, here she's looking at the horse. I might have then said to her, turn and look at me and smile. And then I've asked her actually to put her head, you know, her cheek on the horse's forehead there, and she's coming closer. And I've done landscape, wide, and closer, portrait, wide, closer and closer. So of one set, one location, one pose, I might have 12 images that are usable and able to go through to the viewing. Albeit I might not put all 12 of them through, I might cut it down to maybe 6, 7, something like that. Then when you times that by, for example, 11 different locations, which would be usual on an equine shoot, you're talking about 130-ish images that are usable, and a variety, because remember you're changing clothes and the horse is changing tack, etc., etc. So here you can see, hopefully that made sense, but if not, someone can ask a question and I'll re-explain it. But here's lots of examples again of that kind of crouching, you know, either in front of your horse or by the side of your horse, cuddling. Remember, you know, the connection here, lots of heads or noses touching. Again here, this horse actually, she came to me and said, I'm not sure he's gonna, this was actually on a training day, and so we had 6 photographers and a couple of models, and he's like a champion endurance horse. And she said to me, he's just not going to stand still. He doesn't stand still. He's an Arabian horse that is crazy. He runs like 80 miles at these competitions, and there's no way he's going to stand still. Anyway, he did not move for a whole hour, basically. And so she was delighted, because actually she could have loads of gorgeous photographs, and he was much better behaved. But here you can see she's crouching and smiling at the camera, smiling away. Horse looks gorgeous. So next one, which is a really good one, particularly if you get the impression that your client's nervous and a bit worried about the photo shoot, walking away. And I always say, just pretend you're walking your horse to the field, okay? So they're just relaxed, but again, you've got to tell them, because they don't. Stand up straight, keep smiling, arms relaxed. I like to halfway through them walking away from me, I'll just shout, put your arm on his neck, or put your hand on his head, or whatever, so that you then gain some connection. Here you can see the kind of ultimate that you're waiting for. If you look at the bottom left image and the bottom right image, so here, sorry, bottom right, if you look, there's just a curve in his neck. His ears are forward, and he's just looked slightly to the right. His tail is swishing, which is lovely, and you just get this beautiful kind of line where the horse, you can see that he's happy, and here again you can see the same thing happens, and you're just waiting for that moment. Sometimes it doesn't come, and that's okay. You can see this the same, but from the front. And again, I'll do, you know, wide shots, portrait and landscape, and then as they come back towards me, I'll go closer and closer. And even, there will have been a couple more shots here as well that actually would have been much tighter, so kind of head and head. But walking shots are always great. If either you need to fill a bit of time where you just need a kind of bit of a break, because you can ask them to walk off for sort of 30 meters and then turn around and come back, and it can give you a bit of breathing space whilst you're just catching an extra few images. So leaning, find stuff for your client to lean on. They're always much more comfortable if they can lean on a tree, lean on a gate. Again, think about how their legs are, be it weight on the back leg or leaning a foot. The same things, hands relaxed, smiling. Or, you know, honestly, I know this sounds like a broken record, but every time I look through my camera, if I don't see, if I can't tick off all these things that I keep saying, I will say, can you just relax your hands? Okay, look at your horse. Yeah, keep smiling. No talking. Don't say good boy. You know, I will just tell them, and they know where they are. They feel confident in what I'm asking them to do, and so it's a good thing. It's a good habit to get into, where you are constantly directing, and you're not just silent behind your camera. They want to be told what to do. So here's another variety of just how people or owners can lean on stuff. It's always nice when you find quirky props to use. So for example, the ladder in the top right, that's, you know, it's quite nice when you come across stuff like that. I'm always looking for rusty gates, rickety old things, or trees, or, you know, and remember, if you have a look here, top left, asked her to cross her ankles over, and that looks nice. And this, so for example, this rickety gate, it could be the stable door. So quite often I'll start in the stable, and, you know, they can lean on the door. You open the door, you can get them to crouch down, and the horse looks down. You can get them to stand up and lean against the wall. So actually all these poses, excuse me, can be done in many of the locations that you choose to shoot in. Again, here just a really nice one to demonstrate as well that the horse doesn't have to be looking at you. It doesn't have to be looking at its owner. But you just need to, so I will have directed the owner here to look at her horse, look in the direction her horse is looking, or look at me and smile, look in the opposite direction. But I will have told her all those things within seconds, and I've been snapping away. So again here, so the one before was where she was behind the gate. Now of this set here with Faye, first of all I had her behind the gate, then she was sat on the gate, and then she's come in front of the gate. And remember that I'm going wide, I'm cropping in, I cropped in tighter on this, so it was just their heads. Again, both landscape and portrait. I've had her look at her horse, I've had her put her arm up on his neck, so you're getting huge variety within one set of images. And of course, not to mention, I might have changed my angle as well, you know, walked 2 or 3 meters in another direction, maybe crouched down, maybe I've stood on my tiptoes, whatever it is. But from this one location, one outfit, you know, here she's got a nice leather head collar on, you'll see, and a nice plain rope. So you can really get a lot of images from just maybe 2 minutes of shooting in one location. So standing opposite, this can be kind of a tricky image to get, although you wouldn't kind of believe it. But you know, this horse is quite big, so when he looked up, he was in good alignment for his owner to kiss him on the nose. What I haven't mentioned is that I often work with an assistant, and that assistant could either be my assistant, or it more often than not is the mother of the girl that I'm photographing, or it might be a stable groom that they have that can spare an hour or so to shake some nuts. In this instance, the assistant was got a whip and put it in the air with like a Sainsbury's bag on the end of it. Now, I say that with caution because some horses would freak out at that, so you have to be very careful, and it's always advisable to ask the owner kind of the level of hissy fit that the horse might have, you know, when you wave a plastic bag in the air. But here it just worked perfectly because the horse put its head up, he put his ears forward, and then the owner was able to kiss. Now again, that whole kissing thing, if you actually photograph someone mid-kiss, it's not actually going to look that attractive. So I tend to tell them to kind of put go to do a really soft, gentle kiss and then smile, and that always seems to work nicely. Now you can see here the variation. Now top left, for example, if I asked Georgina to kiss her pony's nose there, it would look really awkward because she'd have to lean down a foot to get there. So that doesn't work. But as you can see, bottom middle, maybe if I'd asked her, which I probably did, asked her to kiss her horse's forehead there, that would look great. So it might be that, again, depending on the horse's size versus the owner's, you can either get a kiss on the nose or not, or you have to kind of think outside the box. You see bottom right here with Faye, her horse is definitely big enough. In this image, lovely, took it, presented it, but I would then have also asked her just to lean her cheek on her horse's nose, then give him a kiss. Again, I would have been doing various crops around that, so you know, maybe 5 images resulted from, you know, that kind of location and clothing, etc., etc. So again, another example where you see this horse didn't quite look high enough, but so we just got the nice connection with her hand on his nose. Look at the reins, they're nice and neat. She's smiling, horse looks great, she stood up tall, lovely, lovely. It's all working beautifully there. So one thing I always get asked, and well, I say I always get asked, I actually at the end of a shoot will say to all my clients, is there anything in any shot that you thought I would do that I haven't that you would like? And invariably they say, yeah, I want to have a shot on my horse. So there's a massive safety aspect to consider here, and if mum is there, actually if mum's not there, you know, if they are a child, then it's really super important that you ask their parents that it's okay that they sit on their horse. I always ask, have you ever ridden your horse bareback? If they haven't, that's absolutely fine. We'll put the saddle on. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, and I'll show you an image in a second where you can see it doesn't make any difference. Then I will say, okay, that's fine. If you have ridden your horse bareback before, have we got somewhere secure, so an arena or something, that you can get on your horse with your hat while someone is holding it, and we'll take a minute or two to walk around the arena with your horse, you sat on bareback, just so the horse can relax and get used to how you're feeling. Okay, how you're feeling on his back, because for a horse it's kind of weird when you're constantly ridden under saddle and you sit on it bareback. So you know, you can expect that the horse feels a bit tense or uptight if you suddenly jump on it bareback. So I go to those lengths to make sure that I've done everything possible to make the situation safe. So then I say, okay, so we'll walk to the location that we're going to go. We can then take off their hat, and I'll ask them to, basically they have to double their reins up, so they put their reins into one hand, and then and that will stop. A horse's automatic reaction when you lean on its neck is to put its head down. Okay, so most people would fall off in that situation. If they lean on the neck and the horse puts their head down, they're going straight down with it. So what I say is put your reins together, hold them tight. I mean hold them tight as in like just secure, so that the horse, one, won't walk off, and two, won't put its head down. And then, as you can see here, I've asked her to put her arm round his neck. She puts her head to one side, relaxes her legs, and there we go, there's the shot. So you can see any sort of variation of this. You can see down the bottom I've come around the side to shoot from the side, and that can also be a nice shot. Top right is the one where the saddle's on. You know, to be honest, I personally don't think it makes any difference. I haven't noticed a difference in the sales of owners on their horses' backs. You know, I don't think it makes that much of a difference, basically. And so if it is not safe, in this case, that horse had not been ridden bareback for a few years, and so I was like, fine, let's put the saddle on, no issue, let's go with that, and that was fine. So really with this shot, I don't like doing it because if something happens, it would just be horrendous. So I'm always very cautious. There's only been a handful of occasions where the mothers have said, yes, she's fine to have a canter. I never, ever ask them to go faster than a walk because, yet again, I just don't want to get in that situation where something happens. And this is sufficient. With the variety and everything else I do, people are more than happy with this. So that's a nice one to end on. Horses. Now, I haven't really talked much about the horses. It's all been about the people. And the reason for that is actually you don't really have that much control over what a horse does. We can, you know, shake nuts in one direction or another direction and get it to look in a certain way. But as far as the rest of its body, you can't tell it to lean on its back leg or, you know, turn itself and tilt its head. You kind of have to go with what you're given when it comes to horses. But if you can perfect what the human looks like, the owner, then you've got a far, far higher chance of getting great sales, because the owners look great in the images, and then as long as you click at the right time when the horse looks good, then, you know, it's simple as that. I know it's not that simple, but, you know, effectively, if you can get them both looking great, then you're on a winner. So horses, you know, they can be front on, they can be side on, they can be 3/4 on. You can shoot them from the behind, but one thing you should never do is photograph them downhill. When we look at the conformation of a horse, we want them to look be higher in the withers than the quarters. So we would want, you know, head and neck to be higher than their bum, basically. So never photograph them when they're on the downhill, because they look weird and awkward. Ideally, you'd photograph them on the flat or on an incline. So, oh, sorry. So again, here's just a few variations of posing, and again, you can see, just to reiterate, all these people are smiling, they're all looking adoringly at their horses or at me or at the camera. Now you can see actually top right, and actually I think that the pony's nose wasn't chopped off in the actual photograph. That's the presentation. But you can see how the red lead robe actually is a little bit distracting. So, you know, I will have prepped her and said to have something neutral, black or brown ideally, but maybe she just hasn't had one of those. So, but it's not ideal, basically. But you can see here, reins are neat, everyone's standing up tall, you know, weight on back leg, even in the shot, the kind of silhouetted shot, bottom left there. So hopefully that has given you guys a kind of insight into how I would pose my clients with their horses. And that genuinely is what I do with each of my owners. So we've got, what have we got? The classic portrait, sitting, crouching, walking. What else do we do? Leaning on stuff, so benches, trees, and standing opposite your horse to kind of get that kissing shot. And I do those time and time again, repeated on each shoot in different locations with different clothes, and I can produce a set of images, maybe 100, 120 images to my client, that they don't know that I've done the classic portrait 5 separate times with them. And there's the kind of key, keeping it simple, and I always know where I am with posing my clients, because in the back of my mind I've always got this formula going. So hopefully, and I'm just looking at the time here, we're pretty good on time. I don't know whether any of you guys have got questions, but I've got a studio in the New Forest. I do lots of one-to-one training days, so I can focus solely on your business, and we come up with a strategy and a plan, and get you to progress your business. Generally, 98% of my clients are, you know, want to focus on their equine business, but all the business advice I do give is absolutely applicable to weddings and portraits, dogs, whatever it is. Actually, horses and dogs kind of go together. You'll probably get requested quite a lot for owners to have their dogs in images. I also do mentoring courses, sort of 3 months, 6 months, a year, group training. I sell online videos, but basically overall I'm really passionate about helping other people progress their business and making successful businesses, particularly photography businesses, for themselves. So anyway, I hope this session was helpful for you, and that you'll come back and join me for the next one and the third one. So I'll hand back to Jay.
Have we got any questions? Yes, we have, so you better get yourself sat down or all comfortable.
Okay.
I didn't interrupt because it was the usual, it was not the usual, the questions are all relevant, but sort of a general mix. So I thought what I'd do is I get the questions in, because a lot of them have like multiplied and they're the same, and so I've got it all down.
Okay.
If somebody's asked, can it be anywhere in the world? Well, yeah, but it'll be on Emily's timescale, right?
Yeah. So it will be on UK time, but it's a Skype call, so we'll just be on the computer with the video link, and we'll just talk face to face for an hour. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so these questions aren't in any particular order, and they've just how they've come through to me, as easiest way for me to read them off. I think it was fairly evidently clear that it's one person and horse per session. You don't do multiple, do you?
So quite often, well, I say quite often, maybe half the time, an owner will have multiple horses, and actually that does jog my memory that I should probably do a webinar on photographing multiple horses, but the principles are all the same, so you would still ask the owner to do exactly the same. There is another reason why I might do multiple horses is if I do a yard offer, and this is kind of on the business side of things, but quite often I might photograph 2, 3 or 4 different owners with their horses on one day at one yard. So generally speaking though, it would be one owner, one horse, but sometimes it's not.
Brilliant. How long is the average photo shoot?
Okay, so when I started out, I was doing sort of an hour and a half in the morning, stopping, having lunch with the client, and then maybe an hour in the afternoon. Now that I have 2 small children, a business and a home to run, I now do my photo shoots in the morning, and they last approximately an hour and a half.
Brilliant. I knew we were going to get this, so multiple pronged question. Choice of lenses, and do you have a favorite aperture?
Oh, okay, yeah. So one camera, one lens, 99% of the time, which is a 70 to 200, and that gives me the most flexibility to kind of, because when you're on a yard you generally have quite a lot of space, so I would rather step back and zoom in. Quite often, like this image you see here, is probably on 200mm, and lots of my images will be zoomed in like that. And sorry, what was the other?
Do you have a preferred aperture?
Oh yeah, okay. So shooting horses and owners, I tend to go, depending on the light, it will be 4.5, 5.6, something like that.
That leads us on to quite a vast amount of questions. Are we shooting just natural light? Do you use any flash at all, and does it scare the horses if you do use it?
Yeah, okay, so again, 99% of the time it's all natural light, and I don't do any flash. I've had the odd client ask if I can do sort of like a studio portrait, and I will. You can never guarantee what the horse is going to do. A horse that is particularly docile can absolutely freak out, because when you put a light above, anything that goes above a horse's head can scare them, because they can't kind of see it properly, and so they'll actually put their head up and back away, which obviously is not conducive to getting a nice portrait. So the other thing to bear in mind with that is I know lots of insurance companies will not insure people to photograph horses using flash because horses can freak out and it can be quite dangerous. So you would need to double check with your insurance company if you wanted to shoot with flash.
Brilliant. Let me just go back to the top of the list. Okay. Quite early on, and I must have missed it because I was talking to questions, you were referring to shooting square on with just two legs showing. Is that the horse?
Shooting square on with just the two legs showing.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
what I have in the question panel, so a little vague, I'm afraid.
Okay, so it might have been when I was talking about cropping. So I was saying that I was going wide, and then I would zoom in a bit, and I'd crop behind the front two legs. So you'd sort of crop behind the withers, if you know where they are. They're just above the front two legs. They're at the top, just at the base of the neck. And then I'd crop square, so down behind the owner's back. So for example, like this image that we see here, where she's crouching down. So this is a tighter crop. The second crop I would have done would have been to include the horse's front legs. Hopefully that's what...
Oh, I think they've just jumped back on. I think, oh, hang on a minute, because the question panel's gone a bit. Please, can you? The question panel's jumping around because people are trying to jump. Where is it? Right. I.e., not four legs showing for show ponies.
Oh, okay. So I not. Yeah. So basically, what I was saying was, if you're photographing a show pony, their owner would only ever buy a shot if you're going for a wide image where you can see the whole of the horse and all four legs. They must be stood up square. Absolutely, you will not sell an image unless the horse is stood up square. But irrelative of whether they're a show pony or not, you can do all the other crops. So you know, showing owners would buy a close-up, for example, like the image you see here. But if you are doing a wide shot and you can see all four legs, they absolutely have to be square.
Brilliant. Guys, just so there's a lot of questions that have come in about the business of the photography. Obviously, we're not going to be able to answer all of these tonight, but this is also something that Emily has available via the training barn and obviously your previous webinars and your videos. So, I mean, these webinars weren't designed to look at business. We've got a couple of basic questions I will ask you in a moment, but we're not going heavily onto the business tonight. But you can find out all of that information via the courses and the tuition that Emily runs at the training barn there. How much retouching do you do, Em?
Oh, hardly anything. So if I shoot for an hour, I will process for an hour. And that is it. And then the client will see the images. They'll say yes or no, yes, no, yes, no. And then the ones that they have said yes to and go on to be framed or in an album, I will go over and just double check there's nothing extra that needs doing. But as far as I'm concerned, the processing is just very small tweaks to exposure, contrast, and that's pretty much it.
Brilliant. And are you then Lightroom or Bridge? What do you prefer?
Yeah, so I pretty much everything in Lightroom.
Brilliant. Oh, I forgot to ask you, Leah, what camera do you shoot with?
So at the moment I shoot on a Leica S2, but for the majority of my 10 years specializing in horses, I've actually used a Nikon D4, I think, sorry, because I haven't shot on it for a year or so, with the 70-200.
Brilliant. We've had this a few times. Any tips on tricks to get the horses to prick up their ears?
Yeah, okay, so quite often I'll carry a little Tupperware box, tiny, like one to fit in my pocket, with some gravel in it. And you can shake that. You have to be quite skilled if you're being the assistant and the photographer, because you know, trying to shake some gravel and then take a photo can be a bit tricky. But if you could get an assistant to do that for you, a bucket of nuts is the ideal. A pack of polos, for example, the image you're seeing on the screen now, she may well have had a polo in her hand to get him to come and snuggle in there. a whip with a bag on the end of it. Again, go with caution on that one because you're putting it above the horse's head. So, I mean, the assistant would be stood back, maybe 5 or 10 meters, but because you're putting something in the air, that you have to be careful. And a bag of crisps, you know, like crunching them, or, as in your hands, or a set of car keys. Any of those kind of things. But horses do get bored of the same thing being shaken, so it's good to kind of swap and change.
Brilliant. Two-pronged question because it's on the same note. Is there a best time of year for this, especially with the sort of animals having their winter coats and things? And
Yeah.
go on, answer that one first, Love, and then that's fine.
Yeah, so basically, pretty much now, April, right through till Christmas is great. January, February, March is a time to rest as a photographer. No, but for horses, yeah, the winter coat, it finishes kind of around April, so April, and then I find myself shooting all year until kind of November.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The other, how do you then, what do you do with regards to obviously scheduling the shoot, and do you allow sort of a backup day if the weather is really bad?
Yeah, so if the weather's bad, we'll all just agree that we'll reschedule. Sometimes I can even make a phone call in the morning. We will have spoken 3 or 4 days before, so if it looks like the weather's going to be rubbish, we'll say, okay, let's touch base the day before, and then if it still looks a bit iffy, but we're not sure, but we kind of want to go for it if we can, we'll speak the morning of, and if it's going to be horrible, you just don't want to even bother, because actually it's a waste of their time, it's a waste of your time, because you're not going to sell images if you've got, you know, people soaked and horses looking like drowned rats. So yeah, I would always reschedule.
Brilliant. Guys, I am just going to ask the questions that we have now, otherwise I don't think Emily and I will be getting home tonight otherwise, but as Emily said, we're going to be doing another one next month and the month after, so so I will get everything that's been asked so far asked to Emily, but please don't put any more through, otherwise, like I said, I won't be able to get them answered. Handheld, or do you use a monopod or a tripod?
No, all handheld.
Perfect. Right, I'm going back to the top and I'm working my way down again. Okay. Right. Where do the clients change their clothes when you're on a shoot?
So lots of clients, I'm going to their homes and they have yards at their home, so that we just go into the house. If they don't have a house that they can go into, then they'll change in the stable, or I have had a couple of clients change in their car before, wherever, or even in the field. We kind of just make a joke of it. I appreciate if you're a guy and, you know, the owner wants a bit of privacy, then they go into a stable if they haven't got anywhere else.
Great. Is when at the beginning of the shoot, if you're not familiar with the horse, is there any tips or tricks for sort of just the horse getting friendly with you as the photographer? Is there anything that you do there?
Well, to be honest, again, there would be a bit in the preparation in the phone call with this, and you know, you'd ask about the temperament of the horse. Again, the majority of my clients, because they're competition horses, they're very well handled. Generally, their behaviour is good. Quite often, if you've got a stallion, you know, it will be much trickier to photograph. They'll be far higher, you know, highly strung. And so actually I don't get too close to the horses. Of course I'll go and pat them and say hello, but in actual fact I tend to stand back a little bit and let the owner just deal with their horse as they do. To be honest, the horse is pretty much either focused on its owner or how it can get to the field to get some grass, so you won't feature highly in its thoughts, if you know what I mean. So nothing specifically that I do. It's always worth, if you have a pack of polos with you, just ask the owner first if it's all right to give them a polo, and maybe, you know, a sugar lump, and pretty much any horse will be your friend if you give them a polo.
Brilliant. It's the same with me, actually. If you give me a polo, I'll be your friend.
Yeah, yeah, me.
How are you metering? Are you metering in camera, or do you use a light meter? And if you're metering in camera, what do you meter for? The person, the horse, or what?
Yeah, I just set my camera on matrix metering, and yeah, generally, sometimes it can be tricky with black horses. I'll always, actually, that's one thing to know about clothing. I tend to tell people to stay away from white. They don't always stay away from white, but in the ideal world they would. So yeah, it's just matrix metering.
Brilliant. Okay, so how long between the shoot itself and you turn around to view in with your client?
I'll say 2 weeks, that I'll give them a call and let them know they're done, and then I'll book them in to come into the studio a week or two later. So by the time they actually get to the studio, I know that I've actually got 4 weeks to get the images done. But like I say, if I shoot for an hour, I've processed for an hour, you know, the Monday or sorry, the following day or a couple of days after. So I tend to wrap my shoots up pretty quick.
Excellent. And you've answered a few of the other questions, was how do you show to your clients? So you've just answered that. They come and they view.
Yeah.
So brilliant. Okay, this is a good one. How do you go finding your clients? Is there a quick top tips on how to get into horse photography, where to approach, who to talk to?
Okay, so that is actually a massive question, and I do, with my one-to-one training clients, we'll spend all day, a whole day in the studio talking about this very question. But a top tip would be, think about where equine people hang out, and that can be pony club shows, riding club shows, events, badminton, dressage competitions, and you need to be visible there, because essentially if you have a stand or whatever, however you choose to be visible there, you have got a prime audience at your fingertips. So finding equine clients, you've got to go and hang out where they hang out, basically.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, this is a nice one. Top tips for stopping horses from eating grass, and also horses that might be not complying, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. So key probably is to change locations quite quickly. So if you do go out into a field where there's grass and the horse is a bit fidgety and it always wants to pull down and eat, you want to start off with your walking shot, right? So they're walking, they're concentrating on walking, and then you get them to turn around, walk back towards you, and then you stop them. You get your classic portrait and you shoot very, very quickly. You've probably got 3 seconds before that horse realizes it's stopped and it can eat grass. So in those 3 seconds you need to have shot your 6 or 7 different images, and so always walking a horse off when it's being fidgety and annoying, you just tell the owner to circle it, come back, stop, and you've got about 3 seconds. And if you can get someone to get its attention at that point when you've walked it and then stop again, then you've probably got 6 seconds before it starts getting fidgety again. But the key is to keep moving. With horses that are kind of a bit nippy and they pulling their owners around, the more you can change, the better. But on top of everything, you must not make your owner feel like their horse is being a pain, because they will be feeling that. They'll be feeling like that they'll be getting annoyed with their horse for not doing as it's told. And so if you confirm that for them, it makes them feel worse, and then that's going to make the photo shoot not a nice experience for them. So you just have to keep saying, it's fine, don't worry, let's try a different location, that's fine, and you've just got to be mega quick.
Brilliant. Last couple of questions, we're getting there slowly. Do you decide which images you show to the client in black and white?
Yeah, absolutely. So I might have shot 300 to 400 altogether on my shoot. I select down to somewhere between 80 and 120, and then of those images, maybe a third of them will go to black and white. They tend to be the more cuddly shots, where I want to take any color distraction out, and it's all about the emotion. So yeah, maybe up to a third, but there's no rule. I just pick whatever I think looks good.
Brilliant. Actually, that led on to the last, but one of the last few questions there. Somebody heard you mention 80 shots earlier, so it's between 80 and 100 that you present to the client that they're choosing from.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, last two questions, and I did save them for last for a reason. I thought they were quite nice. The first one was from Jennifer. She's 13. She loves photography, she loves horses, and she's thinking of a career in both, or would love to have a career in both.
Yeah.
When she gets started, and this is when she gets started, what do you think she's looking at sort of costings, charging wise? Obviously, it's not different for you because you're at the top of your game, but we knew this kind of question would come through.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, being 13, you've definitely got time on your side to kind of work up through the pay scale, if you like. And so, just to start off with, I would, charge maybe 25 quid for a shoe and see whether you can make a sale up to 100 quid. And then as you become more confident and your portfolio gets better, you can certainly go up £50 a shoot. Maybe at this stage you'd want to include an image, but you can basically, however confident you are, you can charge what you like. So as long as you know you're giving value and your client is going to get great images from it, then you need to start at a place where you're comfortable. And then, for example, I charge, and I know I've got to put my prices up. I totally do, because I just want to. But I'm charging £800 now to turn up and shoot. So there's no harm in starting real low, which is exactly what I did when I started. But just build your portfolio, and then the more images you have, the more you can charge.
Brilliant. And Jennifer, I think you're still online with us, obviously take advantage of jumping over to the training barn, sign up for Emily's newsletter, because it could be a great way to win a Skype call to get you started on your career with your horse photography there. So do that now, just before. Well, just do it. Just do it just after the questions, Jennifer. But jump onto trainingbarn.co.uk, fill that in. Brilliant. Last question. This is the last one, which I did hang on to as well. This is from Mark. I have no experiences of photo shoots with a horse, but one of my clients has asked, instead of a pre-wedding shoot, could they have some shots with her horse, but in low light? Obviously, we've talked about sort of avoiding flash. They're talking about sunset. So any top tips for sort of approaching that shoot?
Well, that's great that they've requested a horse, because in their shoot, because actually that will open up a lot of other horsey clients for you, because she will show all her horsey friends. So you've definitely got to make it count, this shoot. Think about, I mean, when they say sunset, make sure you go kind of an hour or so before actual sunset, and to be honest, there'll be enough light for you to shoot really nice portraits. Think about lots of backlit portraits. I don't know when your shoot is, but it would be worth you listening to the next two webinars, and particularly the third one, because I'm going to talk a lot about light. But yeah, I don't know whether you remember, there was a silhouette type shot from behind. It was one of the last slides of a girl stood with her horse, and there were lots of trees. You could think about doing something like that with the sun behind. But to be honest, evening light, it will be absolutely gorgeous. The horse will look amazing. If the owner, is obviously squinting, then get her to look at the horse a lot. And that's the kind of way you get round sun in faces, by just getting them to smile at their horse. So that it will be an amazing shoot. Don't get too worried about it, because I'm sure it'll be fine.
Excellent. That is all the questions. So thank you so much again for joining us tonight. So we are doing two more. We're going to confirm the dates next week when I get back from Birmingham. So guys, check out the Facebook page and the dashboard on the Photography Academy, and Emily and I will confirm those dates for you towards the middle or the end of next week. So it'll be this time next month and then the month after for the next two. Emily, you've already got, you've got your second series of films now on the Photography Academy, and of course, training content and video content available from yourself at the training barn as well. But thank you so much for tonight. We didn't run over half an hour, so not too bad.
No.
about normal for us. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Love having you with us. I don't photograph horses, but if I did, I now know what to do. I'm a third of the way there anyway. Third of the way there. Excellent. But no, seriously, thank you for tonight, and we'll be back online. Loads of thanks on the chat panel, so I forgot to feed that back to you. Thanking you for your time. Really informative.
Lovely.
I'm looking forward to the rest. So hopefully you'll see a spike in your sign-ups for your newsletter as well.